We should be live now. Good evening, folks, and welcome. Thanks for coming in. This is our first live in about 2 weeks, but tonight we have Craig down the bottom, who's still no shade, by the way. But our guest tonight is historic paranormal researcher Kell Ridley.
Hello, nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. Last year, it's been a few weeks in the making, but you're here anyway.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I'm here.
As I said before we came on, it's nice to meet every guest you have on the show, obviously, but it's nice to meet somebody who's up the same street, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to ask you the usual question to start off with, though. Sorry, but you've probably been asked 2,000 times, so this will be 2001.
That's okay.
Where you know I'm going to ask you, don't you?
Got a fair idea.
I'll tell you what, why don't you give me the answer and then I'll tell you if you're wrong or not?
Has it got anything to do with how I go into the paranormal or into history?
Aye, a bit of both, aye.
Yeah. Well, the paranormal, basically I've been into it since I was a child. I flatlined when I was 6 years old, and apparently I was able to sense spirit from then on. So it started from there. I seen my first apparition when I was 9 years old, from about then, 9 or 10. And then it just became a fascination to us. So that's how I got into paranormal. Became part of my first team, and I think it was 2012. And since then, I've been part of 3 other teams. But the historical side of it, is since I was a kid as well. Since I was at school, took history at school, and I absolutely loved it. Wanted to be an archaeologist, but I wasn't smart enough for that. So just researched history and absolutely adore it.
Yes, I hated this. The war saying, "Oh, good evening, first to my husband, to the gaffer, and to the lovely." That's Craig's better half.
Most important goes first.
School of history, I get kicked out of history, basically. Not because I've done anything bad, just because I was thick. You know. And
I know that feeling.
I just didn't have any interest. You know, it's like you're a teenager and you're sitting in a class and somebody's right to talk to you about Robert the Bruce, and all you can think about is getting out of that classroom. But it's amazing how your love of history develops as time goes on.
Yeah.
Through the years. So you flatlined when you were 6.
Yeah, I had an operation. Yeah.
And then to then on, you were aware of spirit and what have you.
Yeah.
Do you think that's maybe because briefly you kind of how you touched the other side basically in spirit?
I'd like to think so. I can't remember any of it at all. So it's just my mum says that I didn't really have any sort of sight or intuition or nothing like that beforehand. So we don't know if it was just because nobody noticed it or it just happened. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was before that or after that when it happened.
So how did that affect you growing up? You see these films where you get the weird girl in the corner that talks to dead people.
I've kept it to myself. I mean, that was basically my mum that knew I could sense stuff, and she was quite supportive about it. She used to obviously tell some of our family members, and they says that it ran in the family basically. But apart from that, I didn't tell anybody. At school, they just thought I was the weird girl that used to bring in projects about ghosts and stuff like that, and monsters, where everybody else was bringing them in about the pet rabbit, the pet dog, and stuff like that. So. But my best friends knew I was into ghosts, and we used to turn lights off and try and look for ghosts in the dark from being about 10 years old and stuff like that. So
I was a kid whenever I think we'd one ghost story that we told everybody. There was something to do with a white hand in a bin shed, and this bin shed had a wee gap at the top of it, and I always remember I was standing and somebody said, "Oh, I seen a white hand coming out of this bin shed." So that was my first thing in the paranormal. Obviously, it was just a kid's tale. But I think back then, the paranormal was less accepted than it is now.
Yeah, definitely.
you know.
I mean, when I used to go in with me projects about ghosts and stuff like that, people used to like look at us a bit weird, and like they used to call us spooky, and like other friends when I was getting older even thought I was spooky because that's what I was into. So they just used to label you with things like that, but now it's more acceptable. Virtually everybody's doing it now these days.
I think with the internet, it's easier to access.
Yeah.
Sort of like paranormal things, and teams can talk to each other. Like here, there's a lot more information than what there was back when, most certainly when I was younger, which was years ago. And yeah, definitely you can just sort of like access, like going places like Paranormal and History, or your page, and kind of easy access to all this information about the paranormal. So it's a lot more widespread and a lot more sort of like accessible.
Yeah. That's right. I mean, when I was at school, there was only 2 books in the whole entire library at school about the paranormal, like ghosts and like cryptids and stuff like that. And I think I took them out and I forgot to bring them back, so nobody else got to read them. I think I've actually still got them books upstairs. But
is that no called stealing?
It wasn't on purpose. Let's just say, just forgot about them.
I'd hate to see the size of the fine.
Oh, I would hate to see it and all. Well, the school isn't there no more, so.
Oh, you're in the clear end. Oh, you get 2 free books. That's all right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good. But I mean, when I started, I used to go to spiritualist churches in Glasgow, and I was working at the time, and people would say, "So, would you do at the weekend?" kind of thing. So I went to spiritualist church, and they just kind of look at you. They say, "What's that?"
Yeah.
It was a spirit. You go and there's a medium. It was a medium. And once you told them, you say, "You're a freak."
Yeah.
Right, you talk to dead people. I said, "No, I don't talk to dead people." Go to spiritualist church, but they used to say, "Freak boy" kind of thing, I wasn't kicked to the side or anything, but I used to get a good slagging, because I went every Sunday kind of religiously to the spiritualist church. But that kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things when I went to see one particular church, and a medium came to me, and it's a kind of long story, but she told me about my daughter, an ex-girlfriend, my gran, my dad, things that nobody knew, and that kind of, I'd always believed in life after death. I always think there's something there, and I think it happened when my gran died. No, my grandma, my gran. We were up at the hospital, and I saw a line there, and just looking at the, her body, basically, you get this sense that she was somewhere else.
Yeah.
That makes sense. She was away. And then once I went to spiritualist church, that clinched the deal for me. Somebody's put Facebook user. Facebook, if you go into the post, you'll see in the bottom, it will say, grant StreamYard permission to use your name or show your name. If you click on that, your name will come up. We're saying there's definitely a stigma attached. Which is right, there is a kind of stigma attached to it.
Yeah, there is. Definitely. I mean, I used to go to spiritualist church I started off going about 24, 25 years ago. And just because obviously I used to like get involved with the open circles and that with my best friend, it's like people used to think, like you say, we were weird, but we used to get labeled spooky and stuff like that. So like I say, we didn't used to tell anybody about it because of that. But my friend used to love it because back then I was into witchcraft and stuff like that. So she used to go around telling everybody, like obviously if they did anything wrong, I'd put a spell on them and stuff like that. So people were a little bit afraid of us as well in that respect as well.
Yeah. Well, I grew up at a spiritualist church just down the road from me, at the end of the street from it. And as kids, it was always like, oh, there's that strange place. Oh, they're all kind of like loonies. They talk to dead people in there and everything like that.
Yeah.
But growing up and getting a bit more educated and everything into it, is kind of like you find things out, and there was almost nothing sort of like that. It's just sort of like normal people. But most certainly when we were children, it was just like, man, they talk to dead people, or it's all spiritualism and devil worship or something like that. The way that kids' minds go, it was just really kind of like always that mysterious building at the end of the road,
And there's always that house that you'll not go into in there. That house is haunted. When I was a kid, it was an old farm, and they called it the haunted farm, and we would only go up during the day.
Yeah.
I was just an old done-in farm. It was falling apart. It was like a death trap. If my mum and dad knew we were there, we would have been, joining the spirits, basically. We used to say, it's a haunted farm. You can't get near it because it's evil. And, and this was other kids telling you that.
Yeah.
And you're curious, like a haunted farm, it's evil, because when I was younger, I was right into all the horror films, Jason, and I love to see people losing limbs, basically, and films, not in real life, A film isn't a film with somebody lost an appendage or some type,
Yeah. Mine was zombie films. I loved zombie films, the original ones, like Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like 8 years old when I was watching them. So it's not like a great thing to show an 8-year-old kid, but that's just what I loved. I loved things like that. So, yeah.
You've got Cinderella and all the rest of it, and you're watching Dawn of the Dead. And people wonder why you're
why you grew up to be who you are.
How old are you?
How old am I?
No, I'm talking to Craig. You mentioned a VCR.
Oh, right.
How old am I?
No, it's all right. Never mind. You don't need It'll take a guess. I know how old you are anyway, but I'm saying nothing. But I mean, I loved my horror films back then. As I say, Jason, Freddy, it seemed that everybody was into zombie. I wasn't a big fan of the zombie films. I don't know why. I mean,
I love them.
They eat brains, parts of people and everything, but I don't know. I like to see big. The thing that always got me about Jason was, and we Rick McCullum on last year, a couple of times was good friends with Kane Hodder, who played Jason. And I says the thing that always fascinated me about Jason is all the Friday 13 films, you see the teenagers running like hell through the forest, and Big Jason is just walking. He always catches them. And I says, how does he catch them? Big Jason doesn't give a toss. He's just walking with, I'll get you. And they're running like hell, but he always ends up in front of them. I think that's what I love. It sounds weird, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It sounds really kind of screwed up. VCR is still high tech. But I know you found this, Kel. Do you find that there's a lot more people interested in the paranormal than they'll actually admit?
Yeah, it's like everybody, wherever I go, I've got tattoos with ghosts on them, and basically if they see me tattoo, they'll go, oh, what's that about? And I'll explain I'm a paranormal investigator, researcher, and everybody's got a story to tell you. So it's like everybody and the uncle and the auntie has got a story about the paranormal, or heard something about the paranormal. So yeah, there's a lot of people who go, oh, I don't believe in that, but then when you get talking to them a little bit later on and stuff, they've all got a story, every single one of them.
Exactly. I mean, we don't try to, shove our beliefs down people's throats or anything, but we always prefer to say, if there's something happened in their life that they can't explain, we don't say it's paranormal, as we were saying before we came on about the people that jump on the paranormal wagon, you thought that's paranormal, the usual. Definitely increasing interest, especially with social media nowadays. Just crazy. Hi, Nando, buddy. I forgot what I was saying. See what I mean? We were saying about forgetting what you were saying. You're halfway through and just stop. But the amount of people that we've met, and they'll say, so what is you doing? What have you? And we say, we run a the paranormal. I've always been interested, but I didn't want to say to anybody. In fact, we darkness in house, a few months back, and the sort of gaffer, the boss man, he'd been in and out of the house, and I had the backdrop in that up one day, and he was like, "What's that for?" I said, "Oh, we're doing a paranormal." Really? He says, "Tell me what it is, because I'm going to look it up." And so he looked up that afternoon and he joined. He says, "But he says, I don't get many people that will actually talk about the paranormal."
Yeah. I've had a similar sort of experience when I was rushed into hospital when I was doing my last show that I was doing last year. And basically I had like a severe high temperature, and they had to like obviously like pump us full of antibiotics straight away. And the porter was like talking to us, and he's like, "Oh, so what were you doing tonight when you got rushed into here?" And I was like, "I was just about to do a podcast, but obviously this happened." And he's like, "Oh, what kind of podcast?" And I told him for the paranormal, and that was it. He was like, "Oh, give us your details and that, and I'll obviously I want to watch it." So he did. He added us, and he's become a good viewer of ours. So
we've gained quite a few members just through sheer chance of just mentioning it. And I love that stuff. I love it. But Facebook user says, same as Craig, social media these days, social media has helped.
It has.
I say it's helped, it's hindered it as well.
Yeah. I was going to say that. It's kind of helps and hinders.
Everybody's the expert as well. It's like if you've got any kind of footage at all, everybody's an expert on it type of thing. So it just it ruins the actual investigation, the research of it, and stuff like that. So, and with that many people being interested in it, and it's become like how do I explain this? It's like that many teams are popping up everywhere. It seems like everybody's in competition with everybody else. Instead of helping each other and lifting each other up and saying, try this location or whatever, they don't. They just try and keep that location and like keep it exclusively for them, or get the prices hiked up on it. So it's harder for like genuine researchers to do any investigating.
I 2000% agree with you. I mean, we tend to say and tell people where we are, no unless there's a reason why, we sort of keep it quiet for another team or somebody else's place or something. But it's always a secret location. They make it sound that mysterious, don't they? They'll say a secret location, and it's a graveyard.
I must admit, I'd done the investigation on Monday, but I put on my Facebook that it was an undisclosed location because we had a medium going and we didn't want them to know where we were going until we got there. So that's the reason why I put it on for.
You see, that's a genuine reason.
Yeah.
And whereas a lot of people are turning it into a competition. And if they, I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody likes to get a good capture, for want of a better word. We've done it, and you see, you get yourself a wee pat in the back. It was a good wee pat in the back. You move on, to your next one. But you get these people that will plaster it everywhere, and they'll bang on and on and on. We're better than you because we, and it's these other groups. You've probably seen them, Kell, they'll put pictures on Facebook and they'll circle it. This is a ghost. This is a man sitting at a table, and it's something like a tree or something like that.
Pareidolia.
Yeah,
exactly.
To me, if you're going to put a picture up, just put the picture up. Don't say what's on it. Put the picture up and let people look at it and decide for themselves. But it's when they put big circles up and the big arrows and the lights, bing, ghost, spirit, apparition, You think that's a tree, you're looking at your pillock,
That's a hedge. That's a bloody hedge.
It's the same as the famous, I think it was last year with the fire extinguishers. You've heard of that, Kell? Surely you've heard of the fire extinguisher one.
Not off the top of my head, but I probably would have seen it. I've seen virtually all of them.
Have you ever seen The Shining with Jack Nicholson?
Yeah.
Remember the two wee twins that are standing in the corridor? So I'm not going to say who the group was. People will probably know it anyway, but they put a picture up. It was a kind of blurred image, and it says the twins from The Shining. Something along those lines. We caught apparition. Somebody to the phone included it was 2 fire extinguishers.
Oh my God. I'll have to look that one up again, actually. I can't remember seeing that one.
I was everywhere, this photograph, and this guy, you photographed 2 fire extinguishers and you blurred the image up. And
oh my God.
They were saying it's the twins with the shining, or whatever bull crap they were claiming. But there's too much competition.
Yeah.
As you say, and it's just getting to the ridiculous stage. There's a lot of backstabbing and people are trying to bully other teams. Have you ever encountered that, the bullying aspect?
No, not that. Like I say, I mean, it's just like they're trying to put like the prices up and stuff like that, and like the locations and stuff like that, putting the prices up as well because they know they can make money out of it now. Even the places that aren't even haunted, and they're trying to say that they are.
Yeah.
So, but no.
We were looking at a famous place down south. I got in contact with them the other day, just out of curiosity, and they came back and says it's £800, and I felt like saying, well, wow. I don't want to buy the bar. I just investigate basically, and I said, so they say we can do, is it Sunday, Thursday, £800. So me being thick, I mailed them back and said, well, is that 4 days for £800 or is that one night? Because the way they worded it, it was kind of hard to tell. And I know people probably laugh, but but they says, no, that's for 7 o'clock at night till 8 o'clock in the morning, £800.
Yeah, there's a castle up in Northumberland. I'm not going to say which one. They wanted like £2,000 for about 3 hours. It's like, and then you're limited. You don't get the run of the castle. You get one room in the castle, and it's like, nope. Nobody's wanting to pay that.
£2,000 for 8 hours for 3 hours. Yeah, it's just no.
Yeah.
It takes you that to set up. If you've got like enough equipment and stuff like that, by the time you set your cameras up, that's going to be gone.
We're usually about half an hour to set up because we don't use a lot. We just use the Glasgow charm basically.
Yeah.
But sometimes we're Casey Kilmarnock, see, he doesn't know what Glasgow charm is. I'm actually in Kilmarnock, but I'm originally from Glasgow. But Craig looks kind of lost there when I said that.
Hey, my dad was from Glasgow, Cambuslang, so I've got Glasgow blood in me, so I know the charm.
Well, that Cambuslang is sort of Glasgow, but it just sits in the outskirts. Charles is saying it's just as crazy in the USA. It is. We've got an American team. Jennifer runs that, and we've got a lot of American friends teams and stuff. And no disrespect to them, but I think the American side there is more money driven.
Yeah.
Sensationalism.
Yeah. I mean, like my podcast that I do is on American networks and stuff like that. So I've got a lot of American friends, and they all tell me different stories about what goes on over there and stuff like that. And it's like there's a thing. Obviously, it's para-unity, and it doesn't really happen. It's still, people are still trying to backstab each other. You know what I mean? There's a lot of teams that are trying to be like reasonable with each other and like obviously have each other on guests on podcasts or like inviting them to go to investigations and stuff like that. But there's a lot of them just like I say, I don't even know where all this hate for other teams come from. It's ridiculous. Absolutely.
They're all wanting to be famous. Well, your wife's made a comment, Craig.
Yeah.
He must have some charm. We got me to marry and his way punching. I don't know what the last bit of that means.
You be quiet.
His way punching. I don't know what that was. Sorry, dog.
Punching above his weight.
All right, okay. And a lot of them are they're just interested in being famous and getting that TV series and all the rest of it. And it's really sickening some of the levels some of them go to.
Yeah.
To get that, to get noticed. There's one, but I'm not going to name him. I was going to do a live about it, but I was kind of advised not to. He's well known for saying that he's contacted dead celebs. and he done a thing on the Queen last year after the Queen passed away.
Yeah, I know who you're on about.
The next day, he contacted her because that's the first place she would go, was to see him, and he just done one recently the other day. Obviously, Lisa Marie Presley passed away last week, and the next day she went to see him, and it's mind-boggling how people believe this stuff. And I looked at some of the comments on the individuals' videos, and people are saying, "Whoa, that's amazing. That sounds just like her. And that sounds like Elvis." And you're reading this stuff, he's got Michael Jackson, Patrick Swayze, loads of all these big stars that have all, before they went to the other side, they went to see this guy to say hello, basically.
Right.
And it's just sick how. Yeah. Hi, Rosie Doll. It makes it hard for
things
me.
Like that. It's just like I say. I mean, it's just taking advantage of the dead person at the end of the day, isn't it? It's like the more famous they are, the more likes and views they're going to get. So, but it's like all this, like obviously the TV shows and everything like that. It's sort of blown it out of the water, like for the serious researchers and stuff like that. So everybody, because they've watched these shows, they automatically think that they're a professional investigator. Well, there's no such thing as a professional investigator because we don't have qualifications. But everybody,
I mean, that one. I'm a professional investigator, and there was a group, shall we say, that advertised they were running training courses, and if you passed it, you'd get. You'd be a professional investigator and you get a badge. See, this is serious. This is Jenna. Can you imagine?
Dennis the Menace badge, just like.
Can you imagine a graveyard or something with your badge?
Oh God! And who is it? Because I want to definitely do that so I can run around with my badge then. I can say I'm a professional then.
PIH. Professional PI, paranormal investigator. I've got a badge, so I'm. And then as you said earlier on, the expert thing.
Yeah.
We had a guy in our group a couple of months ago, and he said, "I run, I run a channel that's full of experts." We ended up kicking him because I got into a debate with him, and I told, "You know what, Sunshine, you're a waste of breath." Cheerio. And you don't like doing it, but it's when they come on and they say they're experts. Whether it's spirit, UFOs, whatever it is, you name it. They'll say, "I'm a professional expert." I didn't know you got an amateur expert, but they'll say, "I'm a professional expert."
I don't even say I'm an expert. I just say that I'm an investigator or a researcher. That's it. That's what I do.
I mean, you can have more experience than somebody, if you've been investigating for 10 years and you get somebody who's maybe been doing it for 6 months, you get more experience in investigating, which is obvious. But it doesn't make you any better. I've always said that, a lot of people go in for gadgets and tech, and no disrespect to them, that's their thing. But you can have been investigating for 30 years and go to a castle and spend 3 nights there and get nothing. And then you've got a wee guy comes along who's only been doing it a couple of months, and he's got a torch and a phone, and he gets loads of evidence.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them better investigators. It's just that the spirits tend to like him better than they did because at the end of the day, I think, I don't know if you agree with this, Kel, we can investigate as much as we want, but if a spirit doesn't want to talk to you, then you're going to get nothing. You could have a spirit sitting next to you on a park bench, and you would know nothing about it unless they kind of wanted you to know about it. But that's why he's turning into a kind of rant, into a kind of attacking stuff. So the history side of it, what made you combine the two? Was just because you had a passion for it, or you just decided to kind of combine the two? Did you find that was hard to get off the ground?
Well, it helped, like, having the passion for the both. So it's like when I first joined Ghost Investigate, they had somebody called Darren Ritson as their historical researcher. So basically, with me being in history and like studying it for as many years as what I did, I just sort of took his space when he left. And like I say, I mean, I was digging up things that other teams didn't find. There's one we found a tunnel in one of the bars in Newcastle, and then I found out it led from the old jail into there, where they used to meet with the sailors in the cellar of this pub, and then they used to take the prisoners down into the ships and stuff like that. And it's like nobody else had found that history. I mean, there would have been other people, but not for that link to that pub, because we didn't know what the tunnels were for until, like, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I did a quite good job doing that. So the more and more that I started finding things out, the more and more of a buzz you get and stuff like that. So I started enjoying it more. So started doing it more and more for the team. So,
you do get a kind of buzz doing it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've done a lot in Edinburgh. We've done tons in Edinburgh, and just all in the Old Town. You know, Royal Mile, Greyfriars, the Vault, all that kind of area. And it's amazing the sheer amount of history that's actually there.
Yeah.
The thing I found, which kind of boggled my mind, was the Royal Mile is full of closes up and down. You know, every 10, 15 yards there's a close. And the amount of people who just walk by these places every day or walk through them, you know, to get to Princess Street or wherever it is they're going. And they don't realise the history that's attached to this corridor that they're walking through.
Yeah.
You know.
It's the same with my hometown as well. It's like that people don't realise the amount of tunnels that's under the ground under there in Newcastle city centre. I mean, like, I've worked in Newcastle city centre most of my working adult life, and I didn't even know about it until a few years ago, and I was quite amazed. It's like people, they just don't have a clue like about how much history that we've got, and it's amazing. Some of it, it's intriguing as well. It's not just boring history. It's actually really, really.
It's like street names. It's just like to some people, it's like street names are just street names. But if you, in a lot of places, if you dive in extremely sort of like close, you'll find it's a lot to do with industries or something like that. People, it's all to do with kind of like named after people in the past, and it's just like, and to a lot of people, it's just like, oh, that's just the name of the street, you know. And then you just dive in and just find, oh, it's, you know, it's named after an industrialist from the 1800s. So it's just like, it's fascinating. It's right under your feet, and it's fascinating.
We've got a bus station. Well, it's knocked down now, but there was a bus station with a car park behind it, and it's like, for years and years we used to pass through there before I knew anything about it, and it turns out it was a jail in there, and people used to be executed. And apparently, when they were like demolishing the place, they had lost, I think it was 2 or 3 bodies where they had buried them inside of the walls. So them bodies are still under the ground somewhere, and it's just to know that that's there. It blows my mind. That's a part of it I love.
How many people parked in that car park where they found Richard III? You know,
into
that, and it took one person just to go, hang on, let's do a bit of research here and everything like that. And it just happened to be buried under an R in the car park in Leeds. You know, it's just how many people have walked over that, and it's just been forgotten, and you know. Things like that are amazing.
Exactly.
It's the same as plot. I think it's 23, 21, 20, I'm sure it's 23. I probably is wrong, and if I've got it wrong, then I should be ashamed of the amount of stuff we've done in Edinburgh. Plot 23, it's in Giles Cathedral. It's a car park, and it's a parking space, number 23. There's a wee white coloured brick, and this is where John Knox is buried. And as far as we know, he's still there. And people use this every day. People can't go to work, but they don't realise that the Parker and Topi we think is John Knox. No doubt Laura will correct me if I'm wrong, since she's watching. Same as Greyfriars. I mean, you walk into Greyfriars, the people don't realise it doesn't matter where you walk in Greyfriars, you're walking over bodies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it was old saying don't walk over a grave, but whether you're walking in the grass or the tarmac or grass, you're walking over people because of the sheer amount of people that are buried.
Mass grave.
Greyfriars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Greyfriars started off as a valley, and it's now a hill basically because of the sheer volume of bodies. And it's a shame because there's a lot of history. Jennifer, for your American team's always saying you have got a lot more history than we have because your country's a lot older. So, you know, that fair enough. But it is fascinating when you find things like Richard III, you know, things with that he was buried in that car park, and for decades people have been parking cars in top of him.
Mm-hmm. I must admit that's got to be one of the most exciting finds anybody's got to have found in modern history.
Yeah,
it's like for just to be able to find it like that. And I mean, Richard I was one of the most well-known like monarchs in the Tudor era, apart from obviously Henry VIII, because of him being like labelled as a hunchback, which obviously we know it's propaganda, well, probably propaganda. But like I say, I mean that would be 1 in a billion chance, like for any of it to find something as amazing as that. Just blows my mind.
It wasn't an expert that found it. It was like, you know, it was like an ordinary lady who was just part of the Richard III Society.
Yeah, society, that's right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you don't have to be an expert just to go digging into history.
No, not at all. Not at all.
In this case, literally. You know, but it's a really good sort of like Channel 4 documentary about it, basically from the first sort of like excavation right up to the you know, discovering who actually was that they had excavated and everything like that. And it's just one of my favorite sort of like documentaries ever. It's most fascinating as well. And there's a film as well, you know.
Yeah.
I bet she never thought like 4 or 5 years ago when, you know, she went, hang on, why don't we have a look at this car park and just, you know, it's just, I bet she never thought all this would happen, you know, to her.
Yeah.
Just a member of the public.
Yeah, it was just weird how she walked up to it though, and because it just had an aura over it. That she was like, right, that's where he is, that's where we're going to dig. So that was pretty amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Scott's lost for words.
No, I'm not. I know I do a lot of talking on these shows, you know, and sometimes I just can't shut up. You know, you just
get your breath back.
But when you were talking about, you mentioned Henry VIII, and I know you're a big Tudors fan.
Yeah.
Same as ourselves. I've been we were talking about places that you pass by every day. One of my dreams was always to go. Scott's never heard you talk as much. Aye, that's true. And that's coming for your wife, so you can't really answer her back. One of the places I'd always wanted to go was the Tower of London.
I've been there.
Tower of London, Hampton Court, and I've been 3 times now, and just getting into the Tower of London, just standing there was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, the atmosphere in there is absolutely immense.
You know, when you think back, even you look at Traitors Gate. There's some people who said that we're Traitors Gate. That's no the original gate. And they say there's a lot of people. One of the beefier says it is the original gate. But the thing I found most amazing about the tour is when you go into what used to be the prison cells, whatever you want to call them, and they've got the graffiti on the wall.
Yeah.
Did you notice all the graffiti?
Yeah, is that the ones that's covered in perspex?
Aye, and you just stand there and think back, you know, to who actually wrote it. Was it during Henry VIII's time this was written, or were they a prisoner? Were they executed? You know, what happened to them? As a kind of Tudor version of Scott was here, 2023 sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, But just standing in the grounds of the tower was absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then getting into the chapel, where Anne Boleyn is and Catherine Howard is. I think Catherine Howard, and standing looking at their graves.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know.
I mean, when I went down, I basically was talking to one of the beefeaters, and I was like, from like what I had studied and like read in books and stuff like that, I told him exactly where they had like built the gallows and stuff like that. And he went, "There's not many people actually know that." He went, "Oh, I think it's where like obviously the monument's built for Anne Boleyn."
But
it was actually in the area between. Do you know where the house the Royal Jewels now? In the actual tower, it was there where they built the gallows.
I see. I've heard that quite a bit. The disc is in the wrong place.
Yeah,
it is.
You know,
it certainly is.
And I kind of wondered, well, who made the mistake?
Yeah. Do you know anything about like every year on Anne Boleyn's the death of Anne Boleyn? Somebody has some bouquet of roses like delivered there, and nobody knows who it's from.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows who it is that actually has them delivered every year without fail. It just seems really, really weird.
Possibly a descendant.
A relative. Yeah.
You know, I dare say there's got to be.
Or possibly royalty.
Somebody
royalty, because obviously from what we're finding out now, she was innocent. So
I was going to go because I sent you a picture of it, but that's the book I've been reading.
Yeah.
Haley Nolan, 500 Years of Lies. And I think, and no disrespect to the other wives, but I think Anne Boleyn is probably the most famous, the most talked about. I mean, he was married to Catherine Aragon for 21, 22 years, so that was kind of his longest marriage. But I think because of the whole effect that Anne had on Henry and what have you in the whole kind of country, that's why she's the biggest talking point.
Yeah.
What would you think, Kel?
Yeah, obviously she changed from the what's it called, the church from Rome. That was it called? I can't even remember the name. It's just the split from Rome, and obviously created the Church of England was created because of her. So yeah, I mean, she was the most well known, and because of the trial and everything else like that, did she do it or didn't she do it? Did she like obviously have incest and have relations with all these men, and the way it was told all them years? And it's too, I mean, looking at the history, we all know that nobody would have done that, but you never know. But like I say, I mean, the other wives, like obviously the one who divorced, was it Anne of Cleves, and then Catherine Howard, even she basically admitted what she'd done. So like I say, so she was guilty, and Jane Seymour, obviously she died. But like I say, I mean, yes, it's got to be Anne Boleyn. That's the most fascinating, because well, no, she was innocent. So
I think Anne's troubles began because of the influence. This is just my opinion, and for what I've read, I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
But because of the influence that she had on the king, because obviously the Privy Council one side, you had Wolsey on the other side, you know, and the big thing back then was gaining favour with the king. Everybody wanted the king to listen to their ideas. And one thing I read in that book that I'm reading was that when Henry split from the Catholic Church, you know, we all know the Pope wouldn't grant his divorce. He was desperate for his divorce so he could marry Anne, etc. But seemingly it was Anne that introduced him to a pamphlet. That was written by Martin Luther. And they said that this was a turning point for Henry, because it made Henry realise that he had a greater power than the Pope.
Yeah.
You know, for years he thought it was the other way around, but this kind of was a wake-up call to Henry. And Henry decided, you know, there's only one person greater than me, and that's God. So I can do what I want.
Exactly.
And this is what spurred this is what finally kicked him into getting to say, right, you know, Catholic Church, I'm off. I'm forming my own church. I'm going to be the boss. You know, Catherine, you're done. And I'm marrying you. Blah, blah, blah. And it was all to do with this one pamphlet that Anne introduced him to, and that caused a lot of resentment.
Yeah, a lot of jealousy as well. I mean, when you hold the king's ear and stuff like that, a position of power like that, there's going to be a lot of jealous people out there.
But the thing that I found quite fascinating was that Anne and Wolsey hated each other, but they needed each other to try and sway the king's views, basically. So they were kind of forced to work together, even though they hated each other. And I think Wolsey had a lot to do with Anne's downfall. They said that it was Thomas More. He kind of orchestrated it. I think it was Thomas More. There was another, Cromwell. One of the kings, he orchestrated a lot, but I think Henry realised after Anne was being executed that, well, wait a minute, I made a mistake.
I think he might have had like his suspicions that she was innocent to start with. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, because I mean, some of the things that she was accused of, it's like, it's just stupidity. I know, like, there is women that would do stuff like that, but I mean, she was accused of witchcraft, bewitching the king. She was accused of sleeping with her own brother. It's like, if she had all these different men to sleep with, if that's what she was supposedly doing, why would she want to, like, you know? Like I say, I don't believe that. So like I think, my own personal opinion, I think he knew that it wasn't true. I just think he just wanted to get rid of her and obviously marry this Jane Seymour. And
it was his way. I do believe 100%. And as you say, the thing that she was accused of doing, the witchcraft, the sleeping around, blah blah blah. And you think back through all the hassle she'd been through, you know, when she met Henry, and then Catherine was still on the scene, and then Henry chased Anne for a long time with letters and stuff, and she finally kind of gave in, and you know, all the stuff she'd been through. And she became the Queen of England. Why was she going through all that away?
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't make sense. But obviously, it benefited the Privy Council and Wolsey to get rid of her. And it benefited Henry, obviously, at the end of the day, because he married Jane Seymour.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's your views on Henry VIII? As a person?
As a person, he started off all right, but obviously I think he was a tyrant, basically. If he didn't get his own way, then obviously they got thrown into the tower. And so I'm fascinated by him, but I do think he was definitely a tyrant. I don't think he was a good person at all. So,
do you think his jousting accidents had something to do with it? I know a lot of books say
a lot of people say because of like the bump to the head that he got, it can change your whole entire personality. This is something I've actually witnessed personally with like one of my exes. He bumped his head and his whole complete personality changed. And my dad had the same thing happen to him as well. So I do think that there's a possibility he went from being a good person with good intentions and stuff like that, and then having this accident that he had, and like his whole personality changed. So,
because he was actually never meant to be king.
Yeah, his brother was Arthur.
And then Arthur died. I think he was 15 when Arthur died. So Henry was kind of forgotten about. He was kind of packed off to, you know.
He was meant to be for the church. He was meant to be like somebody in the church rather than obviously king. So.
And then obviously Arthur passed away, and King Henry VII was like that. Well, it's your turn. And he was thrust into this, you know, whole big life he never had a clue about. I think he started, I don't know, this is just my opinion, that he started off and he was wanting to do well for the country, but he also wanted to let people know that he wasn't to be messed with. I think he was 2 weeks after he became king, two of his father's closest advisors arrested and executed because he didn't like them. So I think that was him saying, look, I'm going to be a good king. I'll look after you, but don't mess with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'll end up on the scaffold, basically.
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of dispute whether Henry VII and Henry VIII were the rightful kings. There's always been a story that, you know, with the War of the Roses, that they actually stole the title.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the princes in the Tower as well. There's still stories that one of them survived, and they got named something else, and they came back later on, and they got arrested as like basically as fakes, usurpers, or whatever you want to call them, and like executed or done away with, whatever you want to call it. So, like, if that's the case, then they shouldn't have been on the throne. So,
I mean, back then, it
happened a lot.
That was a daily thing. You know, whoever made the axes had a good business going.
Well, all of the Plantagenets were basically wiped out by that family, so there was no competition.
I mean, if you get in the way, you were just executed.
Exactly.
And obviously, being the king, you could make up whatever charges you want, and nobody was going to question it. Yeah.
They just put it down to treason, basically. Even if they thought of the death of the king, how can you prove that somebody's thought of the death of the king?
Well, it is said, I know it featured in the Tudors programme, but Anne Boleyn said to Henry Norris, you look for dead man's shoes.
But that doesn't necessarily mean what they tried to say it meant. She wasn't trying to think of the king as being dead. She was just trying to say, oh, you want to marry me after Henry goes type of thing. So it's just an off-the-shoulder comment that it doesn't really mean anything, but they wanted it to mean something.
So they took it and twisted the basement. Get back to the kind of Tudors paranormal kind of thing. Spain said that Anne, excuse me a wee second, was two. Pigs in here. It wasn't me making a noise, but I found that if you clap your hands, they tend to be quiet.
I usually have my dog running around and causing a scene when I'm on podcasts and stuff like that. So,
oh no, these two, as soon as one starts, the other, they're in separate cages. As soon as one starts, the other one decides to give him a hand, and they start this. That will just read that squeak, and it goes right through 8 times. You know.
Yeah.
But I found that clapping your hands tends to shut them up. So I am just going to clap my hands for them, but they seem to be quiet now. So I do apologise for the slight interruption to the back.
It's okay.
Sounded like an alarm.
Just want to join in.
They get this thing at night time, they've got their water bottle, and they tend to kind of gnaw on the water bottle at night time. And also because it's night time, there's no other sound about it. It just seems to be amplified, you know, and you end up getting up and taking the water bottles off them because you just can't even stand it anymore, basically. But anyway, that's not what we're on to talk about. The habits of the guinea pigs. Now, Anne Boleyn's meant to be seen in 7 or 8 different places. What's your thoughts on that? You know, a spirit. You know, just using Anne Boleyn as she was maybe seen at Hever Castle, Tower of London, Hampton Court Palace, which I forgot to mention actually, Salisbury Hall. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it depends on what you believe is a ghost or a spirit. Basically, I mean, one of the things that I do believe in is this, the stone tape theory. So obviously something that records like a point in time type of thing. So there's a possibility. You know what I mean?
Do you think there's a chance that, you know, these places do have a spirit there, a lady there, but people that have seen her, just because Anne Boleyn's associated with that particular building, whatever, that's Anne Boleyn,
But they're not 100% sure what she actually looked like from what I remember, because the painting that they do have her at, they said they're not sure if it was her or somebody related to her, either a sister or something like that, I'm sure they said. But so who's to know whether it was actually her or not?
Because her sister, see the fair time with Henry as well.
Yeah, that's right,
yeah. Prior to Anne becoming involved, her sister was kind of in the mix.
Yeah, and there's supposedly she had a child to Henry that was covered up, but who knows?
It was all, you know, I mean, I love it, you there, I really do. I've been fascinated with it for years. And when you start to look into it, it's kind of mind-boggling. Everything that went on, you know, because obviously Catherine had Mary, you know, but Henry didn't want to recognise her as a princess, so she get shunted away. And then there was another woman that a boy to him.
That was Bessie Blunt. Bessie Blunt.
That's I couldn't remember her name.
He was called Henry Fitzroy.
And he get packed away. Then Anne Elizabeth, which Henry wasn't too keen on. And then also Jane Seymour gave birth to Edward in this, you know, because back then, obviously, as you know, Kel, have an heir to the throne was a major, major thing.
Yeah.
You had to have a boy, you know. And when Henry was born, that was Henry's heir to the throne. So he was a happy man. Unfortunately, he passed away. I think he was 15 or something. Unfortunately, Jane passed away. Sorry. I was saying about Hampton Court Palace. Have you been there?
I haven't been to that one yet, no, but it's on one of my bucket lists. I've always said I want to go there.
You need to go. You do. Definitely.
I've been told that there's Catherine Howard's ghost seen running through the halls there, screaming.
She's reported to be seen in the Great Gallery. Where she was imprisoned at rooms at one end, and the story is that she broke free from her guards and tried to reach Henry while he was in the chapel, but the guards caught her and dragged her back to her quarter chambers, basically. And so her ghost is meant to have been seen there, but a Tudor buff, so you do need to go, because even stand in the Great Gallery, the Great Hall, you stand in the hall and you think, this is where Henry VIII sat, and the banquets and dances and held council and met all these, you know, ambassadors and not for foreign countries, and you're standing in the same places he's standing.
Yeah.
Just walking in the footsteps of the same circuses that you know people did from hundreds of thousands of years ago, you know.
Yeah, that's why I loved the Tower of London, but I wanted to go to Heather Castle because of obviously that Anne Boleyn connection there as well. So, but I have been to Studley Castle. I think it's Studley Castle. That's Catherine Parr's, where she's buried and where she lived. And Elizabeth I, she grew up there, like when she was living with Catherine Parr. So I went there, and just to know that they walked there, and oh my God, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
It is true, mate. And you know, as we said earlier on, people don't actually understand. I think Henry, no disrespect to all the other monarchs, queens, kings, I think Henry VIII had probably the biggest impact on this country than any other monarch.
Yeah. I think he's the most well-known monarch of this country, to be quite honest. Anybody, like, if they bring up any of the kings and queens from history and stuff like that, it's either William the Conqueror or it's Henry VIII.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they don't really mention much of the other ones. So,
you don't hear much of, you know, Richard I or Henry IV or whoever. It's always Henry VIII that kind of comes up, and the whole split with the Catholic and Protestant. But this is what started.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen a couple of people. I've known people who had kind of diehard Rangers fans, diehard Celtic fans, and we say, he's a Catholic, blah, blah, blah. I don't class myself as anything. You know, I'm just me. And I've said to them, do you know how Catholics and Protestants came about? Ireland. It's always Ireland.
No.
What?
Yeah.
Says Ireland, King Billy, Battle of the Boyne. No, it's no mate. No, it's Henry VIII.
Yeah.
What? And see when you sit down and you don't give him a big history lesson, but you give him a brief kind of rundown and think, and I didn't know that. I said, well, that's why you've got Catholics and Protestants, because of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. Yeah. Basically, you strip it all away. That's the bottom line, because Henry fell in love with a younger woman, and that kicked it. And it's a look in people's faces. When
to change history with country and stuff like that over love. Love's a strong thing.
People don't realise it. Do you know what I mean? But get back to the paranormal, I think. Your investigations. Have you ever had one of the moments where you think, right, I'm never doing this again?
No.
No, you never had a wow moment or a...
I've had a moment where I've got scared and I went to run away, and we were just talking about that the other night. It was Nelson, one of my first investigations with Ghost Investigate. Drew Bartley, the lead guy, had put a head cam on her and sent us on a lone vigil in one of the hangars. So I went in there, started asking, like, is anybody here? Obviously, can you make a noise? And then from the back, there's 3 really loud bangs, and I crapped my pants. Went to run out the door, and there's a lip over the door, and I basically face planted the floor, fell over, and picked myself up, looked around, make sure nobody was looking, dusted myself off, and got back up, walked into the cabin. Thought nothing more about it, and a couple of weeks later, Drew sent us a message and went, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, fine, why?" He was like, "Are you sure?" He went, "You took a hefty fall, mine." And I was like, "What are you on about?" He went, "Kelly, you were wearing a head cam, weren't you?" I was like, "Oh God." So that was at that point. I was like, because of like, I don't usually get scared or nothing like that, because I've worked in security. I was a bouncer for 20 years, so I don't get scared easy. So it was at that point where I was like, well, I don't know if I can keep doing this, if this is the way I'm going to feel. But I mean, more or less as soon as I got out, I was all right after that. So that's the closest I came to thinking I didn't want to do it.
Do you think we've done a couple of posts last year on whether spirit remembers us and whether it's possible to build trust with spirit? I know you get a lot of teams who go to one location and they'll keep bang, but it's all different. We've done it ourselves, we'll go to a location, a one-off, but we tend to get back to, there's one location where we get back to quite a bit, it's called Loudon Kirk, but do you think the more you go back to the location, you reach a point where spirit thinks, right, that's Kell, I know Kell, I can trust her, so I'll start talking to her?
I've never had evidence of that personally, but if spirit are basically like human beings, and what's not to say that they don't do that, you know what I mean? It depends if you're getting intelligent responses, and I suppose if you're a memorable person. But it depends if they actually, because I see spirit and ghosts in 2 different ways. Ghosts that are like a repeat, and then spirit, which is an intelligent like responses to your questions. So which are actual people that passed over. So like ghosts, I don't think that they just go through the motions type of thing. That's the way I see it. So if it's spirit and the replying to you the same way as what they were before, then yeah, by all means.
Do you mean like ghosts is maybe a residual haunting?
Yeah.
And then your spirit who is actually maybe standing beside you or sitting in a chair facing you and giving you, intelligence. We've had quite a wee bit of luck on that side. I'm not blowing the rain trumpet or whatever the expression is, I can't mind. But I think you get these teams that they'll go to one location and that's it. They'll never ever get back. But I think it's important that if you go to a location, then the more you go back, you've got to build that level of trust.
Yeah.
Between yourself and spirit, and they will eventually come forward. As you say, intelligent spirits, you get answers, they're listening to you, they know what you're talking about, you know. And I think that's just the best way to investigate.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing serious research and stuff like that, then you've got to do it over a length of time. You can't just do it on one investigation. Like, obviously, you've got to be able to compare, like, whatever's happening with, like I say, it's just that you couldn't do it in one night. So, yeah.
Well, we've been about a year and a half or something, Craig. We've been going to London.
Yeah, about a year and a half, I think. Certainly going to sort of like Loudon, maybe certainly even 2 years, I would say, going to Loudon, and it's only just kind of like just now where we're finding out a bit more history of some of the people that were buried in there and everything, that we are sort of like finding moving forward and differential and kind of like making, I wouldn't say it's the wrong word, but relationships with, you know, the ghosts, or getting them to trust us. Whereas beforehand, it's, you know, it was very much, you know, we were in charge and, you know, we didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
But now it's kind of, you know, there seems to be a mutual respect going on. I think the more, even if you go back to if you go to a place for the first time, you don't get very much, anything like that. It's worth going back to it and trying again, and then gaining that with kind of like respect, I think, you know, because it pays dividends. Might not always work, but it can pay dividends.
Well, there could be loads of reasons. Like the first time, if you don't get much, there could be loads of reasons why you're not getting nothing on that night. Could be either your equipment or the way that they're trying to communicate, you're just not hearing them. So it is worth going back quite a few times just to see if anything changes, or to see if you're getting the same responses what you were getting the first time, always changing up like different things and stuff like that, to see if you're getting better responses.
I mean, the ghost just could be sort of like,
they could be
kind of tired that night, you know, and just, you know. And then after about the second or third visit, they might be just like, oh, they're back again, might as well talk to them, you know.
Yeah, they're not going to go away.
I'm fed up with it. What we did is just before Christmas, Craig and I went down, because we know there's two, we know at least there's one child spirit there, but this other family have been working on, that's not the right word, but we've been researching basically. They had a couple of kids passed away. One was 2, one was 4. So we took a wee train down and a wee kind of angel doll for this wee girl. We left them there. And we went back 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago on Saturday, we went back. I was one, you know, I'd been burning my brain over Christmas. So we went back and I said to them, can you tell me the gifts that we left for the kids when we came here before? And we got the words train and doll and toy.
Wow.
And we sent it away to a couple of people. We didn't tell them, you know, this is that. We just said, go and listen to this. And they came back and said, I picked up the word train and doll and toy. So that kind of validated for us that they were there.
Yeah.
Whether they were watching on that night that we went, or whether they noticed it later on, I don't know. You know, it's one of these kind of questions that might get answered kind of one day, might know.
We're better luck.
We're better luck, but it's, as you say, that's a paranormal. You can go, we've had plenty of nights, no doubt you and we'll sit there for 2 or 3 hours. And this is another reason people think we're weird, because we'll sit in a graveyard for 2 or 3 hours and, you know, in the freezing cold, your backside soaking, all the rest of it, all the toys and whistles, and that's our idea of a good night out.
Yeah.
With your friends are away at the pub or a club or something like that, getting hammered, and you're sitting in a graveyard like that. It's a good night, and it's a great night. But it's hi Facebook user. And what's your opinion, Emery, coming out of the paranormal? Do you think? I know obviously with the ghost shows, you know, I watch them as well, and some of them are really, really good. but you get the other ones that are just bollocks, basically. Excuse the French.
Well, obviously, a lot of them are for entertainment purposes, and so if there's nothing happening, they just fake it to get like the viewers and stuff like that. I have watched a couple of shows where not just me, but like my old team leader Drew, he used to like obviously try and debunk every single show, and he turned around and he went, I can't find any way to find out that this is fake at all. And that was I think it's like the Haunted in Saginaw episodes with Steve Shippey. They're absolutely amazing. They're the only ones I really, really will sit and watch. Things like Most Haunted and stuff like that. No, I wouldn't watch them.
I will admit, I was a Most Haunted fan way back.
When I first started, so was I, yeah.
I don't know, 20 years or so, I don't know. Way back. And I was the one that bought all the DVDs. It was me. And it was, and I believed it.
Yeah.
I really did. And I'm not saying, no disrespect to any Most Haunted fans out there, But it was after wee bits and pieces I started to rewatch them. And I started to click on. I mean, there was one particular episode with Derek Cora, God rest him. They were in the vaults in Edinburgh, funnily enough. And you know how he used to go and do his walk? He'd never been in the place. Nobody knew what he was going to do. And he looked in this wee, a hole in the wall kind of thing. And he looked in. And the next shot was you saw him looking in. You saw his face.
Yeah.
And it was later on somebody says, well, if you don't know where Derek's going to go, how did you know to put a camera in that hole?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And it was little things, I mean, there's a famous one with Carol at East Drive. With the knife, I don't know if you've ever the knife on the bed.
Yeah. And when he got dragged up the stairs and he had a rope tied to him.
Oh, I know. I mean, who stands with that at the top of a stair to rest?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? But the way he was standing. But back then, I would have been going, OMG, look, that was a demon, And when you sit and you watch it back, you think, that's crap.
Yeah.
Pulled up the stairs, and they're all. The thing used to get me about them, and I've never understood it, is they would go, investigating, and they'd hear a noise, and they'd all scream and run away. I think Yvette was the worst for it. She was screaming, she'd be out the door, she'd be in the car, And you think, well, what's the point of going? That's like going fishing, right, and throwing your rod in the water.
Yeah.
As soon as you feel the rod, oh no, I'm not doing that. And it was all the screaming they used to and the shouting with the guys, and it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm not slagging off ghost shows. There's a handful on TV that I watch, and they are really, really good.
Yeah.
And as you says, Kelly, your friend, you watch and you can't debunk it. And no matter how much you watch it or research it, you just cannot debunk it.
Yeah. The only thing is, I think that some people think that because like they've watched shows like Most Haunted and stuff like that they go to a haunted location and that's what they're going to get. I mean, it doesn't show you that we could be sitting there for like weeks at a time, like night after night, sitting there and not even get a tap. But they think it's like that interesting. We're going to have all this stuff happening in one night. It doesn't work like that. You're lucky if it does.
It's the first thing that Scott always says in the live, and plus if we have like guests joining us on investigations, we always turn around and say to them, we cannot guarantee that we're going to get anything. We might be sitting here for about 2 or 3 hours and get nothing, and we might be sitting here for 2 or 3 hours and get like one voice coming through, or we could be inundated from the beginning. It's kind of like these programs do set up an expectation that the second you go on, it's going to be, I get a feeling, I get a sort of like, there's somebody just behind me coming in. And it's not really like that. There really is a lot of waiting around and basically a lot of repetitiveness, you know, what's your name, what's it, everything. And that all gets edited out of these programs. And it's like, they've probably been there for about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 hours, you know, and it's edited down to a 45-minute, you know, TV program into that. But it does set up kind of like false expectations, but it's...
Yeah, of course it does.
You know, but we always set out, like I said, we always set out, if we had guests with us or people just wanting to experience it, we just sort of like say, look, it's not gonna, it might not happen tonight, you know, throw your hands up, you know, first time, just it might not happen, but we hope you have a good night, you know. And
see, that's the thing I love, you know, I love going out investigating, you know, and everybody wants to go investigate and get evidence, you know, that's why we're there. But even if you go, as Craig says, even if you go and we have a flat night, call it, you know, you go home, it's still been a good night.
Oh, of course it has. You've still got footage to go through, like obviously, like the days after and stuff like that. So you don't know if you've actually caught anything on until you go through all your footage or like all your EVB recorders or whatever else you got. So you never know.
It's, you know, you're still went home and say, right, we get diddly squat tonight, but we were out, we were doing what we love doing, and we were a team or so and so, and we had a good laugh. And you know, do you find, Kelly, that the lighter? You know, I mean, I've watched these, I've said this in many shows, I've watched teams go out, no disrespect, but you just want to go to your own funeral watching them. You know, that it's like an SAS operation.
Yeah.
You know, and they're straight, you know, get the big vests and all the gear and that one. Anybody here?
I mean, I've got all of the equipment and stuff like that. I've got experiments that nobody else has got because they were made by, like I say, my old team leader, Drew Bartley. And half the time I don't take them to investigations and stuff like that. It's like, I'll just take like the bare minimum, the camera, the notepad, the K2 meter or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't see the reason to take everything with you all the time, if that makes sense.
No, it makes 100% sense. We've told this story a few. There was a guy in Edinburgh went out and we watched his live one night, right? Greyfriars, and he was like, hey there, he was like an SAS commando going into Greyfriars, I swear to God, everything, and it must have took him a couple of hours to set up, and to me the spirits would have been like that. I'm off, I'm not watching this, I've not time for this, you know. And it was like something like a spaceship, he had laser grids and everything all set up in this wee tomb, and he get nothing, diddly squat, and he had to pack it up. It was so funny, he had to pack it up again, but you know, but he went out, I'm off, I'm going to fight Iraq or something like that, you know, but he was only going investigating. And as I say, if I was a spirit, I would have been right, you know what, I'm out of here, I'm going down to Canongate or something, because I've made a life down there.
Yeah, but if the spirits might know all the equipment that he's got anyway, so it's like they'd be dubious.
Well, if you get a spirit for maybe 1600s and he's got all this, they're probably crap they're selling.
True.
You know, if you get somebody who's buried there in, say, 1672 and they get laser, they're probably witchcraft or something, you know. I say, I'm off, I'm away.
You know, it's as far away from that as possible.
It sounds nuts, but to me, spirit, as I said before, spirit is basic. You know, they were people. You know, some of them were, you know, a lot of them were really important, like Henry VIII. They were really important people, but at the end of the day, they were basically people.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's the best way to try and communicate. Just talk to them if they're sitting next to you.
Yeah.
As if you would a friend or something. People might say I'm wrong. Who knows? But this is just my view. Talk to them.
There's a lot of people that disrespect them as well and stuff like that. That's not what I would do. I wouldn't do that. Like to provoke them type of thing into a response, but no, don't do that.
I've done it once. I will admit, when we way back when we first started. You think we've been doing this for decades, way back. You know what I mean? When we first started, I did it once at the Mackenzie tomb in Greyfriars before we found out that investigations were actually banned there. We didn't know. And I did do a wee bit provoking. But you know, it's like you're starting out, even though you've been into paranormal for years. I'd never investigated before until we started PIH.
Right.
So, you know, I'd watched TV programs, other teams on YouTube and that, and you try to take wee bits and pieces. Well, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, you know. And I did do a wee bit of provoking with George Mackenzie's tomb, but it didn't get me anywhere, you know. And I picked up some kind of bad habits. If, you know, I was actually a lady who actually says to me, "Stop talking so much." I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, you ask a question and then straight away you ask another question, then another one. You need to give spirit time to react or answer." And I thought, "Oh, here, wait a minute. So you have." She says, "Try and wait," and that's Mark Eggerton said the same thing. He says, "You know, nobody knows the reaction time of spirit. Yeah. Sometimes you get an answer right away. It could be 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it is, but you need to give them time." Other question: what is the most this is real experience, regardless if you manage to get evidence of it or not? Do you mean what's the most real experience we've had, and maybe no quarrel in camera, or whatever? I think that's what we mean. What's yours been, Kelly?
I had a full body apparition. I part own a tattoo studio, and I was expecting somebody to turn up to fix the alarm system, and I was busy decorating, and my phone just went dead, like with the music on it, and I was like, "That's weird." And as I turned around, and there was a guy standing in the doorway, and I was like, "Oh, hang on 2 seconds, I'll just put my paintbrush down." And I thought it was the guy coming to fix the alarms, and as I turned around, he evaporated in front of my eyes. So obviously, this is before I was part of a team. I absolutely, that scared the life out of us, because I actually questioned my own sanity at that point. I've never seen nothing. I've seen like spirit before and that, but I hadn't seen it as real as that before. That scared the life out of us. And I mean, I'm not the only person that's seen the same guys dressed. I could describe what he was wearing and everything, the way his hair was and everything. And there was loads of other people who had seen him wearing the same clothes, walking up and down the corridor. Like there was a dance hall across the road, across the hall, and they seen him as well. So, like I say, seeing him, that is the scariest and most real I've ever seen my whole entire life. I just wish I'd had a camera that would have caught that on.
Well, that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes something will happen, and you've not got a camera, or you've not got an audio recorder, or you know, something, and you can't time these things. Sometimes you're lucky enough to catch it on camera, and sometimes you know it's my most big experience. I've had 2 or 3, but was we went out with Spig to a location, and I was one a big heavy swing door just closed itself. It was, you know, it came off a latch and it was swinging. First time it happened, we never going in camera, but it happened another twice after that. And we tried to debunk this latch, and we just couldn't do it. And it happened another twice while we were standing there. It came off the latch itself and swung, and we couldn't explain that one. What's yours, Craig?
I was thinking basically it would be, I think it's the one that thinks at Dunoon Castle, where it was I was doing I was sort of like had the headphones on and I was blindfolded, and you guys were asking me questions, and I was listening to the necromonic and answering as best as I could, and all of a sudden, just, you know, I had my eyes closed and I was blindfolded and everything. I couldn't see a thing. And all of a sudden, these sort of like these faces just came racing towards me. It was like I could see, even though my eyes were closed, I could see faces coming racing towards me. and just completely and utterly freaked me. I had to stop. You guys are there. I had to stop the experiment. I just went, I cannot, you know, this is a bit too much, you know, onto it. And I had to go and step outside for about 5 or 10 minutes, just because it was intimidating more than scary.
Wow.
Really, it was just having all these faces just appearing and just coming right up towards me. And I just had to step outside for about 5 minutes, you know. That was about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I still talk about it. It's still one of the ones where I just go, wow, you know, did that really happen? Or did I really see that? And it's kind of like, yeah, it kind of freaked me out a bit, but it was more very intimidating and intense than scary, you know.
That's it. And sometimes it doesn't. It's usually our own. People, I was just starting the paranormal and they're expecting major things to happen, headstones flying about and stuff like that. And it can be, sometimes it can be a wee silly thing. I mean, you know, Halloween there, Laura and I were out and we done a wee graveyard tour just for something different to do. And I was involved myself and I had a hoodie on and I felt 2 distinct tugs on my sleeve. It wasn't anything major, just 2 wee tugs on my sleeve. And I was the only one there. So it can be little things, you know, like that. I was present both events, never witnessed the door thing, but saw it back in video, and it can be explained. With regards to what happened to my husband, that was weird. And we are not mentioning the pigeon. Pigeons again. This location, Dunure Castle, there's pigeons there.
Yeah.
Now, I might get this wrong, Laura. If I do that, I'm sorry, but Laura was there with a couple of the girls, and this pigeon flew through a hole or something like that, and they all get the heebie-jeebies, basically.
They freaked.
They all freaked out. You know what I mean? But, you know, it's pitch black. And that's why what experience made you this fascinated by the paranormal? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Basically was the one when I was 9 years old. I was playing hide and seek in the dark with my friend, and I thought I had seen her go into her back bedroom upstairs. So I went in, and I thought I could see her sitting crouching, hugging her knees against the wall, and there was light coming through the curtain. So I went to go and like touch her to say, "Are you okay?" Because she was crying, and I put my hand straight through her and realised it wasn't her, and the crying stopped and the figure disappeared, and I ran home crying, told my mum, and my mum spoke to one of the neighbours, and she says back in the 1950s there was a girl, there was a fire in that house, and there was a girl found in that back bedroom wearing a nightie, crying. Well, she must have been crying, but she was hugging her knees, and that's the way she was found, dead up against the wall. So that's probably the first thing that I remember that got us into the paranormal. So after that, I was just intrigued, absolutely intrigued.
Yeah. What were you, Craig?
I was brought up a Christian, so I always kind of like brought up in the Salvation Army, so I always believed in heaven, another side. When you die, you go into this other place. Very spiritual kind of like upbringing onto it. But I think as in a way, kind of like as things that happened to me. I think when I was 5 years old, I fell on the steps outside my house, and I looked up, and there was like, where we lived, there was like an outdoor toilet. There was like an outdoor toilet, or a toilet at the end of the close, and it hadn't been used for like decades, anything like that. And I just remember falling down the steps, looking up, and seeing an old lady dressed in a Victorian nightgown, walking sort of like out, carrying a candle, walking out into the garden, not into the house, but into the garden, and then disappearing. And just kind of like, she kind of stopped and looked at me, and I just, you know, I remember her just stopping and looking, and then turning and walking out, and this was in broad daylight, and then disappearing. And I have no explanation for it, you know. it was in broad daylight. I saw it. Maybe I was a bit dazed, but to me, it kind of like it always it helped kind of like it helped promote my belief in the other side and everything like that, and it was something I just always kind of like grew up with, that there was a spirit world and there was a spiritual side. So, what about you, Scott?
Mine was, I'd always been fascinated with the paranormal, and like, but I usually go to spiritualist churches every week in Glasgow. The main one was in Sucky Hall Street, but one particular Thursday, the main one was always on a Sunday. One particular Thursday, I was in the house, and I knew there was one in Shawlands, which is an area in Glasgow, and something kept telling me to go. I'd never been before to this one, and I thought it started at 7, and this was back at 6 o'clock, and I was in so I jumped in the car and I went, and I say nobody knew me. I knew nobody. I just went and sat down, and it was a lady maybe in her 50s came on, and she came straight to me. And she says, "You've got a daughter in the spirit world called Donna, and she's been sitting on your knee since she came in." And I lost her daughter when she was just under 6 months, called Donna. I've got a D, I don't know if you see it or not, I've got a D on my hand. Then nobody knew me, and I never ever spoke with Donna. And she's been sitting on your knee since she came in. And then she says to me, I've got a little grey-haired woman here. She's I thought, well, that could be anybody's gran, but she says she's doing this. Now, this was what I'm doing now. I was doing it at her waist level. She says she's doing this. She says you'll know her by doing this. My grandma, she was like 4'2" or something, but she used to wear one of the old-fashioned aprons, around the waist. And because of her size, the tire bits kind of went round her twice. And she was always tying and excuse me. And
attacking the guinea pigs again.
And I used to drive me and my big brother nuts, because we used to say, "Grandma, will you just leave it alone?" And so the woman says, she says, "You'll know it by this." I said, "That's my grandma." And then she says, "I've got a girl here. Her name's Alison, but she didn't pass over here. She passed over in another country. She passed over in America, and it was a car in her breathing. And she wants you to know she's watching over you." Well, my ex-girlfriend before I met my first wife was called Alison. Her mum and dad had split up. Her dad went to stay in America, so she went to live with her dad. She was driving home one night for her work, and she took an asthma attack at the wheel, and she was crashed and she was killed outright. Nobody knew this. Not even my first wife knew this.
Wow.
But this woman stood and told me word for word, and I still remember it word for word. She says, "Alison wants you to know she's watching over you." But it was a Donna and it was one of the. I went out into the. Nothing freaks me out, but after it, I went out and I sat in the car. Must have been a good half hour before I started the car. I just couldn't. I couldn't get my head around it, what that woman had told me. So that's what kind of nailed it for me. For then, when I was 100%, I definitely, and I just got into it more after that, But I think we'll wind up. I've just noticed the time. I think but we want to get you back on, Kel. You still want to talk about, if that's all right, though.
Yeah, that's fine.
Get you back on. So I'll hold on to you for a wee second or two after we come off anyway. Okay. So where can people find you?
Basically, I've got my own podcast with my co-host Michael Koff. That's every other Thursday, which the next one's tomorrow night. You can watch that on Paralanx, or it's on Parapost as well. YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Kell Ridley. TikTok, Kell Ridley, or Paranormal Kell. So yeah, you can find us anywhere just using my name.
Just type it in and find her. But definitely, because as you found out tonight, she has a very interesting one. And we will be having her back. Don't worry. Once PIH get a closet and some, that's it. They're stuck. their life is over, basically.
That's fine by me.
I forgot to say, I forgot my game was going. So we're going to wind up here, folks. We were back on tomorrow night with the Ghost Host, Sophie, Ted Pirelli. It's a different kind of show tomorrow night because we're not talking paranormal. Well, it might relate to the paranormal. We're talking about movies. Sophie had been talking to me a few months ago about doing a show just talking, because the two is are movie buffs. So she wanted to do a show just talking about movies. So I thought, why not? Let's do it. So that's tomorrow night at 9 o'clock with Sophie Ted Pirelli, the Ghost Host. So thanks very much to Kell for coming in. And
thank you.
Thanks very much to Craig. You'll be seeing him again probably out and about. And take care, folks, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night. So bye for now. Bye.